This episode of SmackDown had everything. Another long close-up shot of Sasha Banks' boss ring. We had Big E rolling down the ramp to make his entrance. We had Nikki Cross standing on the announce table and slapping her chest a bunch of times. For all this and more, it's time for Quick Hits SmackDown Edition. So I'm really enjoying how SmackDown's been using just single shot vignettes for each wrestler to kind of start the show and give us an idea of what it is that we're going to see. SmackDown has, at least over the last couple of weeks, turned itself into really, really entertaining television, even though the ratings don't necessarily always reflect that. To see the likes of Big E, of the two-woman power trip, Sasha Banks and Bayley, Jeff Hardy, Miz and Morrison. There was a lot to enjoy about these because it's short, it's simple, it gets to the point of basically everybody explaining why they're here and what it is that they're hoping to accomplish tonight. And it's just a nice way to get us excited for the show without necessarily rehashing what happened the week before, something that WWE is just hell-bent on doing for some reason. But if they continue at this pace as far as giving everybody these vignettes, I think that they're going to find a way to right the ship and make people tune in again. SmackDown kicked off with the Intercontinental title match between AJ Styles and Grand Metalik. Grand Metalik winning a number one contendership match last week. I really enjoyed this match because it was something that we had not necessarily expected as far as Grand Metalik being somebody that would win the number one contendership. But once we found out that this was going to be the case, I really did get excited because Lucha House Party has been on the scene for years now, and for them to finally get this a singles opportunity like this for one of these guys is great, and it's a name that you wouldn't expect. It would be easy to suggest that Kalisto or Lince Dorado would get this opportunity, but going with a name like Grand Metalik was really, really cool in my opinion. So I was really excited to see what they were going to do in this match. And even though it kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start, I just thought that the pacing was so as far as for guys like Grand Metalik and AJ Styles. Metalik is a luchador's luchador. They call him the king of the ropes for a reason. But AJ Styles targeting that knee very early on kind of slowed the pace a little bit, and I'm not sure if that was intentional storytelling or what. But I do think that it left a little bit more to be desired, at least as far as this goes. Certainly not a great pay-per-view quality match, but as far as kicking off SmackDown, pretty solid opening bout as far as AJ Styles and Grand Metalik are concerned. Another thing I'm really excited about is the Big E singles push. With Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods out of action for the foreseeable future, right now it's Big E's time to shine, and they kicked it off with a bang this week. We've seen Big E and Miz and Morrison and the New Day clash in any number of combinations over the last few months, but to see this one-on-one match with the emphasis being on Big E and his time to shine and taking his chance at seizing the brass ring and not waiting a decade to do it and just going for it. It really is easy to get behind a guy like Big E. I mean, he's big, he's athletic, he's powerful and charismatic as all get out as well. So I really, really want to see them, take the governor off of him and see what they can turn Big E into as a single star within a faction. This performance against the Miz last night was just it was a commanding way to say I'm here to take over the singles division. Getting the submission win with the stretch muffler, they could have gone with the big ending. They could have done any number of things to get Big E the win here, but for him to win by submission and for them to make a big deal of that just says they've got all kinds of confidence and faith in the world and Big E, and I can't wait to see what the rest of the summer has in store for him. And quite frankly, if they keep it at this pace, he's a dark horse to win the Royal Rumble in 2021, at least in my book as it stands right now. I told myself I wasn't going to do it this week, but it's time to talk about King Corbin. I have a love-hate relationship with the guy, and I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised this week overall. I'm not a fan of WWE making the King of the Ring gimmick into a king, regal character, and for them to have done that with King Corbin, shouldn't have come as much of a surprise. But It did, at least to me anyway, just given how many other exceptionally talented people were in that tournament last year. But I digress. Baron Corbin continuing his beef with Matt Riddle and offering the King's ransom to basically have him taken out or softened up. I'd say the odds are pretty good that we're going to see Matt Riddle and Baron Corbin going at it at SummerSlam. Fingers crossed. But in the meantime, Baron Corbin taking this opportunity to set up the King's ransom and trying to essentially solicit SmackDown superstars to take out the King of Bros. This week we saw King Corbin approach Shorty G, enticing him with the King's ransom and hoping that he'll do his dirty work. Shorty G seems to have rebuffed him in the moment, but later on we had a major plot twist when we saw Matt Riddle coming out to defend his friend Drew Gulak. Following this exchange, King Corbin took on Drew Gulak in a singles match where he got a commanding victory. King of Bros comes to save the day after King Corbin begins to attack Gulak. And the next thing we know, we see Riddle getting the roll-up German suplex by Shorty G. It certainly shocked the hell out of me. It was surprising to see a true babyface like Shorty G taking such a hard 180. Whether this is a true heel turn or just him collecting that ransom and taking his opportunity on SmackDown remains to be seen. But I'm at least intrigued in seeing Matt Riddle and Shorty G go at it because I think that's where we're headed. I mean, Riddle, former MMA star, Shorty G, almost called him Chad Gable, which we'll come back to that in a second. Former Olympian. So this is going to be an incredible match and something that I cannot wait to see, and hopefully something we get in the next couple of weeks leading up to SummerSlam. If we are going to go down this path of a Shorty G heel turn, he's got to go back to Chad Gable, plain and simple. If you really want to establish credibility and a domineering presence, you can't have a guy named Shorty G whipping everybody's asses on TV every week. So I'm hoping that if they go down this path of turning him heel, that they really stick with it, because this could be another Murphy on their hands on SmackDown and somebody that could turn into a true workhorse and then maybe eventually get paired up with some of the upper mid-carders and turn this into something really exciting. So that is at least one major reason to start tuning into SmackDown, is seeing where stuff like this goes. With them being the land of opportunity, they are certainly doing everything that they can to make sure that people that are on that brand are getting their time to shine, and I just can't wait to see how much more they do with Shorty G. I find myself really invested in this Naomi versus Lacey Evans feud. Naomi returning at the Royal Rumble this year, setting both Black Twitter and wrestling Twitter ablaze, and seeing her commanding performance and then just kind of falling off the face of the map. Hashtag Naomi deserves better became the viral sensation, and to see her finally starting to get an actual feud and being back on television again is really, really cool. Lacey Evans, I think, will be a lot more confident as a heel this time. She was rushed up a little early from NXT as part of that massive shakeup that was kind of a panic move of sorts at the end of 2018. But now that she's kind of had her legs under her and has gotten some of her confidence, and as far as being on the mic and being on the big stage, I think that this could be a real opportunity for her to go back to what made her so great in NXT. And Naomi is the perfect first foil. She's lovable, she's athletic, an inspiration to everybody everywhere, and it's just really easy to rally behind her. I'm really hoping that this turns into a SummerSlam program, maybe something that ends up on the pre-show, depending on how they're looking to fill out the rest of the card and what kind of time constraints we might be looking at here. But either way, there's a lot of meat left on the bone here. This match was a great way to kick things off. Perhaps my favorite spot of the night, Naomi doing this insane diving slide to the outside and almost landing a Canadian Destroyer. Had me pop out of my freaking chair. Botch aside, I'm really hoping that this Naomi-Lacey Evans feud makes both women come out stronger, regardless of who wins the overall program, just because we do need additional contenders for Bayley and Sasha Banks now that they control the women's division as a whole. I'm not necessarily so sure how I feel about the two-woman power trip that is Bayley and Sasha Banks. Now that they control all of the gold and basically run WWE, this is an idea that you have to walk a fine line with how this is executed, because it's already overkill to have them control all of the championships. But if they also don't build any credible contenders to make it seem like any one of them can dethrone them, then it's all for naught. Bayley taking on Nikki Cross this week in another exceptional performance. There's a lot to like about when Sasha and Bayley are anywhere near Alexa and Nikki Cross. This week was no different. Bayley and Sasha seem to be hitting an all-time high right now as far as working heels, and everything that they're doing, it just creates this instant heat that all you want to see is these two dethroned of everything, and you kind of just want to tune in and wonder, when is it going to happen? There's just so much to enjoy about how they have used these two right now. I just hope that it does not eventually become something that is just they demolish the competition. There's nobody left for, and then they have to go the option of plugging Charlotte Flair back in or Becky Lynch back in whenever that may happen. If you're going to put the titles, all of the titles, on these two women, then you at least need to make sure that you are developing other women's talent and making sure that they're getting a time to compete and have engaged in storylines to show why they're deserving of championship opportunities. So we'll see. But I think that for right now, I just think that they can continue down this path, and let's see how obnoxious they can get with all the gold. Two people that certainly won't be competing for any championship gold anytime soon are Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, because right now they are in probably the most engaging feud of the summer at this point, at least the way that it's kind of found itself kicked off last night. So we've seen Mandy and Otis making plans to go out for the evening, and as Mandy's getting ready, she's attacked by Sonya Deville and just beaten like she stole something. Sonya Deville takes it a step further by cutting off some of Mandy Rose's hair, and then attempts to take an actual pair of clippers and shave her bald. But with the help of referees and Tucker and Otis, she is scared off. I am really hoping that this turns into a hair versus hair match at SummerSlam. Call me crazy, but I think that this is something that I can get behind. I mean, feuds have started over way less. We see Lacey and Naomi, their feud started over karaoke contest. Chris Jericho and Kane once started a feud over a cup of coffee. So it's not even necessarily about the beginnings of it, but how you develop it going forward that I think is going to be really, really important, especially to stories like these on SmackDown, because they are something that you're not necessarily seeing on Raw either. So I'm hoping that both of these programs will be given the time to blossom and grow. And I know that we're about 3 weeks out from SummerSlam, so even if these are not kind of the blow-off matches that we'll see at SummerSlam, hopefully these are 2-3 match programs, especially because we're getting Payback on August 30th, a week after SummerSlam anyway. One thing I do have to point out is when we saw Otis earlier in the show talking with Mandy Rose, he didn't have the Money in the Bank briefcase with him. I quite frankly forgot that Otis was Mr. Money in the Bank, and then it just kind of hit me like an aha moment. But the fact that we're not necessarily seeing Otis carrying that briefcase everywhere that he goes is slightly concerning. I think that with a guy like Otis, because he's not necessarily at the main event scene yet, you at least want to remind everybody that he is somebody that is capable of cashing in at any time. Not that he would necessarily want to do that right now, given who is pursuing Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship, being the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And Bray took it a step further this week when he decided to target Little Miss Bliss. As we all know, Team Little Big in the Mixed Match Challenge. Everybody wondered, will they or won't they? This romance angle was revived again in a way at the Extreme Rules Horror Show Swamp match at AOL.com. And we saw this fantasy montage of Alexa and alluding to a relationship together. And at the end of SmackDown, the Fiend shows up and puts Alexa in the mandible claw in probably the most gripping thing I've ever seen the Fiend do, and probably the most sadistic, heelish thing that he's certainly ever done. This was a nice way to use the intergender, physical contact between a man and a woman. Mandible claw, it's simple, effective, to the point, and really just makes you want to just pummel the hell out of Bray Wyatt. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to see an enraged Braun Strowman next week. But I certainly can't wait to find out. I mean, overall, SmackDown is the better of the two shows as far as Raw and SmackDown. NXT is in its own echelon, but SmackDown, it's always had a different vibe, and it seems like they're more focused on entertainment and comedy more so than the sport and the just kind of unwieldy Monday Night Raw that we're seeing, where it just seems like there's no direction and there's no stakes and no opportunities for people. But SmackDown seems to thrive in that position. Not really sure why, but I'm certainly here for it, and I'm hoping that this is something that they're gonna continue. I know that there's been some additions to the writing team. Triple H is back helping out with creative. Edge and Daniel Bryan have also joined the writing team. So we'll see. Let me know what you guys thought about last night's SmackDown in the comments. Again, for more in-depth analysis about this show, tune into the Eric Squared Circle show. Subscribe on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe to the Eric Squared Circle YouTube channel so you can keep up with all the quick hits. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. We really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And while you're at it, make sure to turn on those notifications so you guys can be the first to check out our brand new content. It's going to be a leg-slapping good time. Oh.